I ran 48 miles in 48 hours. I completely destroyed my body. But it hacked something in my mind. And I got like self-belief back. If I can do this at my worst, like what could I do at my best? Welcome to the third episode of my podcast. I'm your host, Jay. And the name of the podcast is Before We Die. And the logic behind the name is simple. Me and my dear guest are both going to die, so we might as well have an honest conversation about something important. And my guest today is someone that I have a love and hate relationship with. He's my best friend and my worst enemy. I would take a bullet for him and at the same time push him off a cliff. He's literally the most important person and at the same time the most annoying person I've ever met in my life. So without further ado, here is my mysterious guest, me. Yeah, so today there is no guest. And to be honest, that's for two reasons. First reason is that I'm living like a monk right now and I've completely cut out people from my life. And the only person that I talk to is my best friend who I live together with. And other than that, I don't socialize, I don't go out. The only reasons why I leave the house is to go run or to go get food. And that's it. And I'm super disciplined. And that kind of limits my interactions with, well, humans. And it's difficult to find guests if you're not social. I've had two people that I actually wanted to have a conversation with, but those didn't work out for various reasons. And for me, there's one very important rule with this podcast. I don't want to push episodes out just to get the episodes out, right? I want my guest to be someone that I authentically want to have a conversation with, because if I don't want to talk to my guest, I cannot expect anyone to want to listen to that conversation anyways. So yeah, I just had this spontaneous idea of making a podcast just alone. And the topic that I want to talk about today is running. But it's not about running. It's more about the importance of daily habits and consistency and commitment. And I'm using running as an example, well, because that's literally what I've been doing every single day for the past 137 days. 0 days skipped, and I've totaled more than 1,200 kilometers now, I think. And my goal is to run every single day for 1 year, which means that I will finish this challenge on the 10th of May, 2023. So I still have around 230 days to go, which is insane. And honestly, running has already taught me a lot. And it's not that running has taught me, but the consistency of doing something for so long with no excuses and extreme discipline has completely turned my life around in the best way. And I never would have thought that I could learn so much from something so simple like running. And I've also seen that this level of consistency and discipline has drawn people's attention on me, because you don't really see it that often that someone does something every single day for a year, right? It's like an extreme case of anything. And people ask questions and they want to know, why do I run? Why do I run every day? What do I get out from it? Like, isn't it dangerous? Isn't it bad for my health? And all that kind of stuff. And I've been kind of bombarded with those questions. And often I still ask myself those questions because I don't exactly know all the answers, but the answers have gotten more clear over time. So I thought this would be a great topic for the podcast, because I'm going to do it in a Q&A form and just answer the basic, most typical questions that people have asked me because they're interested. And then I'll just answer them here, and hopefully some of my answers might give some value to you as well. And one thing I want to make clear also, I don't promote running, right? So this podcast is not about running. I don't think that everyone should go out and run. It's just that this is the thing that got me into this, right? For you, it can be something completely different. It can be painting or walking or music or whatever, even knitting. But my point is that just do a thought experiment. Take something that you enjoy in your life, or even better, take something that you hate in your life, that you don't enjoy, which for me was running. And then think, I'm going to do it every single day for 1 year, and see where your mind goes. Like, what is the first excuse that comes to your mind why you cannot do it, or why you shouldn't do it. Because we all have these excuses. But my point is that it's not about the thing that you do. You can learn lessons from doing something that you love, and you can learn lessons from doing something that you hate. And the lessons come from consistency. The lessons come from discipline, and the lessons come from commitment, not the activity itself. So again, this podcast is not about running. I don't promote running. What I promote is discipline, commitment, consistency, and doing something every single day for a long period of time. And that something, that activity, is up for you to choose. And now that that's out of the way, I guess let's dive into the first question. When did I start running? I started running this February, so that was 7 months ago. So I'm very, very new to this. And I definitely haven't been a runner in my past. I guess I've always been an active person and I walk a lot. And the only form of running that was acceptable in my life in my past was when I was playing football as a kid. But at least there was a purpose. You chased the ball, right? It made sense. But running, just dry running, going for a run, was something that I always didn't enjoy. And I just didn't see the point of why should I ever want to do that. So the fact that now at the age of 32, I have managed to make running almost enjoyable for myself with 32 years of conditioning that it's not enjoyable makes all of this, I guess, kind of better even. Question number 2. Why did I start running? Honest answer is for physical and mental health. Because, quick background story, my past 3 or 4 years, my lifestyle has been very much on the road. I travel a lot. So I haven't had like a place where I settle for the past years. That means that I always meet new people. My lifestyle has revolved around partying and being on the road and being on the move. And I guess it was just my lifestyle was starting to catch up on me because I've been super healthy my whole life, right? My immune system has been my strength. And then all of a sudden, last year, by the end of last year, I felt that I had destroyed my immune system. And that was kind of scary because I think for the first time in my life at the age of 32, I was worried about my health. And then when it hit me like a truck, I got like 6 or 7 health issues at the same time, including COVID. I had COVID like, I don't know, 3-4 times or something. And it also was mentally difficult because I was in a relationship, a very difficult relationship, which I'm not going to dive into here. If you want to get the details of that, you can listen to the previous episode of the podcast. And that was the reality check because at some point I understood that I need to change something very drastically in my lifestyle. But by that time, it was difficult because I was like a mental and physical wreck. So even doing the first step towards that was just extremely difficult. Luckily, I was reading a book by David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me. And he is like, he's probably the craziest person whose life story I've read. And he's crazy in the best way. And that was exactly what I needed at the time. And in his book, he has this endurance run challenge that he does, which is called 4x4x48, which means that you need to run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And for those of you who think in kilometers, that's 77 kilometers in 48 hours. So that's almost running 2 marathons in 2 days. And when I read the book, obviously part of my brain went like, that would be amazing if you finished that. And then I just kept reading because obviously I didn't want to do it. And it was a horrible idea because at the time I was in no physical shape to do it. I was in no mental shape to do it. And I authentically hated running. Like I've hated running my whole life. But because his book is everything about confronting the things that you want to avoid most in your life, it kind of stuck to me. And I guess I couldn't escape it. And at some point, I just decided that I'm going to do it. And yeah, that was the initial push that got me to run, because I was just starting YouTube at the same time as well. And at the beginning of the year, I made a bucket list of 100 things that I want to do before I die. And I put the Goggins run 4x4x48 on the list, right? But I never expected that I would, that would be almost, I think it was my challenge number 4 that I did. So yeah, my first run I did in February, and I went for 1.5 kilometers, and I was completely wrecked. I couldn't breathe. I was red from my face. It was just horrible. And it was just horrible. There's no other word to describe it. I just felt horrible, and I didn't see any point of doing it. And I wanted to quit, and I wanted to stop. But I didn't. And yeah, long story short, eventually in March, I finished the Goggins 4x4x48. I ran 48 miles in 48 hours. And that, I completely destroyed my body. But it hacked something in my mind. And I got like self-belief back. And there was something in it that made me question, like, if I can do this at my worst, like, what could I do at my best? And it completely changed the way how I saw what I'm capable of, because confronting something that you want to do, for example, I don't know, I love music. I love playing the guitar, right? If someone says, play a lot of guitar for 2 days straight, that would be like, awesome. That's amazing. I like to do it. But if someone says, do something that you really don't want to do something that you're scared of, do something that you think that you're physically not capable of doing, do something that will put you through a lot of suffering and pain, doing that, I think, was where I got the biggest lessons from. And the 4x4x48 challenge was the first thing that completely turned my life around this year. But just to be clear, at the time, I wasn't running every single day. That's how I got started. And actually, at the time, I was I was far from being where I am today, because at the beginning of this year, I started making like a daily habit list, like non-negotiable daily habits that I have to do every day, no matter what, like eating 3 times a day or going to bed at a certain time. I just wanted more structure in my daily life. And I remember one of the things that I put on my daily habits was to go out for a 15-minute walk. And I remember when I was writing it down on the paper, my brain was like, really? 15 minutes? Like put 10. And I was like, oh my God, how low have I fallen that I need to negotiate with myself about 10 or 15-minute walks, right? Because mentally, my dopamine baseline was so completely fucked up that even just normal daily activities seemed extremely underwhelming. So yeah, I didn't have any drive to do anything. And yeah, I started doing the walks. I didn't fail. I always went out for a 10-minute walk, and then I did 15-minute walks, and then I started doing 30-minute walks, and then I started listening to podcasts at the same time, and then that turned into an hour walk. And right about when it was like 1 hour of walking every day, I was like, well, now it takes so much time, I might as well, maybe run a little bit. And that was at the same time when I was reading Goggins, and that gave me the initial push to at least consider running instead of walking. And the 4x4x48 challenge, when I decided that I'm going to do it, that sealed the deal for me that, yeah, I'm committed. I need to release a YouTube video of the run, so there's no escape. I have like, kind of like, if I do something publicly, I'm responsible for publishing the results of what I'm doing. And that gave me the initial push to take the Goggins run seriously. Yeah, by the way, if you want to see my Goggins 4x4x48 challenge, I did release a YouTube video of it, so I'll leave the link in the description if you're interested. Next question. Why do I run every day? So I started running every day on the 10th of May this year. So that's 7 months ago. But the daily habit was already set in place way earlier. I just wasn't running every day. And as I mentioned, I had this little paper that I made for 10 days at a time. And during those 10 days, I had a list of activities that I needed to complete every day, no matter what. Like eating 3 times a day, going to bed at a certain time, and going for my 10-minute walk. That's literally how I started. It was just 3 or 4 things that I had to do every day. And as I was doing it, every time the 10 days passed, I felt like, well, now I can handle more. So I added like one thing. And then I added like reading books. And then I added starting to do yoga. And then I added my first workout. So it kind of grew and grew and grew. And I did it for like months. So by the time it was April, I actually ran my first marathon in April. So it was that in January, I was struggling to do a 10-minute walk. In March, I finished my Goggins 4x4x48 challenge. And in April, I ran my first marathon. But it all started from my daily habits of going out for that damn 10-minute walk that I was struggling to do, right? And when I finished the marathon, I also understood that this all began from a daily habit of walking, right? And I kind of saw the value of doing something every day, no matter what. And at the time, my life was quite disciplined because of the routine that I had set in place for my day. But after I finished the marathon, I kind of felt that I had achieved something, or like I can reward myself. And that was the time when I stopped running. After I finished the marathon, I didn't run for a month. And that was also the time when some of my bad past habits resurfaced. So that wasn't good for my YouTube. That wasn't good for my health. That wasn't good for my just overall my daily routine. And I moved back to Estonia, and I decided that I'm going to do something drastic, and I'm going to do something so crazy and completely turn my life around in a way that Goggins 4x4x48 challenge would seem easy. And that's when I got the idea to do my monk challenge, which was a 40-day dopamine detox from sex, drugs, alcohol, partying, girls, porn, fap, and I also shaved my head. And I pretty much just locked myself in my apartment and cut out all distractions, all the biggest distractions in my life. So if you think about it, all the things that I just listed out, if you stop doing all of those things at the same time, you're gonna have so much time and energy on your hands. So all of that time that I got, I just directed into YouTube and video editing. And I managed 333 hours of video editing during those 40 days, which was absolute insanity. But when I started the challenge, I knew that I'm gonna just be sitting inside video editing. So I knew that I should balance it with something healthy. So obviously my mind went to running. And my logic was simple. If I video edit every day, I need to run every day. So I committed to 40 days of that. And if you look at the smaller picture, yes, I was committed to running. But if you look at the bigger picture, I was committed to staying away from distractions. And I was just using running as a tool to achieve that. And I knew, like, I didn't lie to myself. I knew how mentally weak I was at the time to distractions, like a hot girl writing to me, hey, come on over. Obviously, every cell in my body wanted to go, but I knew that there was a lot on the line for me at the time. And I really had to prioritize the monk challenge that I was doing. And that kind of made me care for my running habit. I really started to care about my daily running habit. And I started to protect it. And then I started analyzing, how can I make my daily routine in a way, how can I adjust it in a way that me getting my ass out for a run would be more likely than me not doing it. And the first thing that I thought about was, well, I should probably do it first thing in the morning. Like just do the worst thing first thing. And once I do that, I'm definitely going to be in a better mindset for the rest of the day to fight off distractions. And the first hack that I got was that, okay, I need to do something smaller, right? If I wake up straight from bed, like nobody wants to go for a run. It's horrible. So I got the idea of waking up and really being conscious about the first decision that I do when I open my eyes. And I was like, do push-ups. Just as soon as you wake up and you're aware that you're awake, roll out of bed and do push-ups. Because if that's the first thing that I do during my day, I already get like my blood flowing and I'm ready for physical activity. And that's what my focus is going to be. So after I do the push-ups, I'm more likely to want to go out for a run. Not want to go out, but I'll have less resistance to go out for a run. And it worked like a charm. Versus if you think about the alternative, you wake up, check your phone first thing. What do? You literally let the world of distractions come right to your backyard and take a massive shit. It's the worst thing to do in the morning, to go on your phone. Whatever the excuse is in your head, it's just horrible. Because the thing with the phone is that it's kind of a vicious cycle to have your phone as your alarm. Because when the alarm goes off in the morning, the first thing that gets your attention in your day, which is like the most important first 5 to 10 seconds of your day, is going to be your damn phone. And once you shut that alarm off, you're going to see a notification or something, and then you're going to be triggered to check your phone. And what you're training yourself to do is to be reactive to your environment. Not have discipline with your own decisions, but just react to whatever is in your environment, including your phone. And that's why during the monk challenge, I had a very simple rule. No phones allowed in the bedroom. Like, no excuses. There was no reason for me to enter the bedroom with my phone. The bedroom was only for sleeping and reading. That's it. And if I forgot that rule, then I had to do push-ups. So it was like a win-win. And by the way, I still do it. I still have the rule. Now I live in Portugal, but I'm still not allowed to enter my bedroom with my phone. I still do push-ups first thing in the morning when I wake up, and I still run every day. Yeah, so that was an extremely long answer, but if I were to sum it up in one sentence, I would say that I run every day because running is like a shield for me. If I skip a day, there's a hole in the shield. If I don't skip a day, I feel like I have this wall around me that keeps the distractions out and protects me and protects my personal space. And I just feel I have more clarity of mind to focus on things that really matter to me, which currently is my Fucket List. And that's literally what I'm doing every single day. No days off, no excuses. I'm actually waking up and doing things that I want to do before I die. Which, if you think about the logic, isn't that what you should be doing with your life? Anyways, next question. And this question, I think, is the juiciest one because I think it's the one that's been asked most from me. And it's, isn't that much running bad for your health? Doesn't it destroy your knees if you run every day? And the funny thing about this question, or so-called question, is that usually when people say that, it's not really a question, it's a statement that they believe disguised as a question. Because when I actually give them an answer, they just follow up with a second claim, trying to prove a point that what I'm doing is wrong. And they're just trying to let me know that I'm stupid and I should stop because I'm hurting my body, right? But in reality, they've just never met anyone that runs every day, and they don't understand why anyone would do that to themselves. And if they don't understand it, they would never do it. And if they don't want to do it, they also try to tell other people not to do it. So that question has nothing to do with actually getting an answer from me. It's just asking it so they can let me know that this is what they think. Here's what I think. I think that running every day is neutral. It can be good, it can be bad. It depends on who's doing it, with what attitude and what awareness of their capabilities and the pressure that they put on their body. For example, if you have never run before and I were to invite you for a run with me every day to do 10 kilometers for a week, right? That would be stupid. You would be destroyed after third, fourth, or seventh day, right? But if I were to tell you, run every day for a week, but only do 100 meters per day, now it's kind of achievable, and if anything, it would seem easy to you. And let's say you do it, you run only 100 meters for a week. By the end of that week, your mind is going to be like, it's kind of stupid to run 100 meters every day. I can run more, right? So for the next week, you do 200. And you finish that second week. And then the third week, you do 500. And by the end of the month, you're doing 1 kilometer every day for a week. And the difference, how you build up to that, is that your mind is hungry to run more because you're not pushing yourself over your limits, but you're starting from the smallest step and getting your body into the habit, because running every day is not going after kilometers. This is the biggest misconception that I see, and why people think that I'm destroying my body, because they usually ask, how much do you run? And then they make conclusions compared to their capabilities. So if I say there was a period when I ran 15 kilometers every day, and they were like, well, that clearly cannot be good for you. But they don't take into consideration where I started and how I have built myself up to that. They just think 15 kilometers every day. Then they compare it in their head that they could never do it. And then they project that on me, saying that I should never do it. So the biggest thing to understand about the daily running or any daily habit is that you are not going after the numbers. I am not going after kilometers. I'm not going after miles. What I want to do is to go after the habit. Because here's the thing. If you have a healthy strategy for a long-term habit, the kilometers are going to come as a result of that. However, if you start going after the kilometers and after the numbers, that's what's going to break you. And I know that because that's exactly what I experienced as well. And it's super difficult because obviously if you run, you track your running. I use Nike Run Club, which by the way is an amazing app. So in case you start running, please download it, use it. And obviously when I ran my first month and I did more than 100 kilometers, I was like, oh, I need to top that the next month, right? So then I did 150 kilometers and I was like, oh, can I get to 200? And then I did 200 kilometers. And eventually I did 100 kilometer weeks already, and then 200 kilometer weeks. And at some point, at that limit, I started to feel that my daily habits are under threat because of the distance that I'm running. And mentally, it was super difficult to take a few steps back and allow yourself to do less, because part of you is driven by the result and driven by the number and driven by the kilometers. But that's the breaking point, and that is the most important moment where you need to realize that the goal is not the kilometers. The goal is the habit. And then you need to sacrifice the number to keep the habit. And that's exactly what I did. And I just allowed myself to fall back to running 5 kilometers, 3 kilometers every day. And sometimes I only did 1 kilometer a day, and it was completely fine. So I would say that the danger is not in the daily habit, but the danger is in the attitude where you start chasing more and more without allowing yourself to just fall back, do less, and recover. Now, that being said, I have to say that there is also truth in pain. And that is also one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from running, is that there's two types of pain, which I didn't know. And I don't know if it's a thing, but this is just what I've discovered personally for myself. And the one type of pain is, I'm talking about purely physical pain right now. One type of pain is the real pain, like when your body is really, really close to its limits and it's sending you signals through pain that you should stop, right? And then if you don't stop, you're going to break your body and have an injury. And the second type of pain feels exactly the same. Your body sends you a signal as if it's close to its limits. But if you don't stop and you push through it, then that pain disappears. And that kind of makes everything what I just said before complicated, because how do you know when you are reaching your limits? How do you know that you're close to your limits and you should stop and recover if there's these two types of pains, right? So it's kind of like your body is capable of also lying to you through pain. And the first time I experienced it was during the Goggins run, when I think it was my maybe 5th or 6th run, and my knees were absolutely killing me. Like before that run, I had difficulty walking, I had difficulty going down the stairs, but I still needed to finish my run. And this is the difference, that in a normal daily environment, if I would wake up with that pain, I would authentically think that, oh my God, something's broken in my body. I'm going to stay in bed, put ice on my knees and take care of my body. But because I was doing the Goggins run and I had committed to a bigger goal and I couldn't give up, I didn't allow myself to give up. I had to push through, right? And if I kept pushing, that pain just disappeared. And right after the pain disappeared, it almost felt like my body was like, oh, he's not going to stop. So, okay, fine, I'll give up. This pain is not real. And I kind of called the bluff of my body. And after that, I felt absolutely amazing. And yeah, my knees were completely fine. And I don't know if this is true or not, but my theory of what is happening here is that your body is capable of sending you false signals of pain to protect you from the unknown. Because at the beginning of the run, like, I was scared. I was absolutely scared because I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I was still in no shape to run. And in the beginning, it was just in my head. It was just my thoughts, right? I was getting the thoughts of, you should stop. This is not healthy. Oh my God, what am I doing? This is so bad. I have to go out and run at midnight and I have to go and run at 4 a.m. This is a bad idea. So I was constantly fighting my mind, but I kept pushing through it. And eventually my mind went silent. And it kind of felt like after I beat my mind and my thoughts, my body was like, okay, level 2. And it put itself to second gear and then started sending me those same signals that would make me question if what I was doing was right, but not through thoughts this time, but through physical pain. And I have to say it worked, because when I had like a sharp pain in my knee, obviously the first thought is, you should stop running, right? And I think that what my body was trying to do was to protect me, because I put myself in such a chaotic situation that was way beyond my limits of anything that I have done in my past. So obviously my body was trying to protect me from the unknown, and the instinct was to do whatever to make me stop. And the strongest tools that our bodies have to send us signals, conscious signals that we are in danger, are pain and fear. However, here's the thing. Sometimes your body doesn't know what it's doing, because the only limitations that your body is capable of calculating are the limitations from your past, right? So if you always accept the limitations of your past and you never push through them, you will always stay the same. And that's why I said before that one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from running is that there's truth in pain. And now that I've explained the two types of pain, what I mean is that there's truth if you can identify the false pain and push through it. And we all have these false limitations in our minds that aren't real anymore, and they're still only there just because you believe them. For example, if I ask you, how much are you capable of running? Let's say you have some bad experience with running from the time when you went to school as a kid, and your answer is 1 kilometer, because that was the last time when you ran and you got a negative emotion and that stuck to your head, and that is still what you believe, right? And because of that belief, you stop running, so you never actually tested what you're actually capable of. And maybe now you're 20, 25, 30, you could easily be capable of more, but you just don't allow yourself to find out. And the thing is that even if you were to go for a run now, as soon as you put those running shoes on, your mind is going to start protecting you from the unknown. It's going to tell you, you can't do it, right? You're going to start feeling, the closer you get to 1 kilometer, the more your mind is going to make you want to stop. And when you run past 1 kilometer, I guarantee you can start feeling physical pain in some parts of your body, because your body is trying to protect you so hard from the unknown that it's ready to cause you pain to force you to stop. And when you push through that, at some point, the pain's going to disappear. Unless, of course, it's real pain, and then you'll get injured. And that's the tricky part, because you really need to understand your mind and body on a level that you don't right now. But I think you have a safety buffer because, I mean, my rule of thumb is that most people right now are definitely underperforming physically in their life. And they're also underperforming mentally in their life. So the limitations that you impose on yourself are not because your body is weak, but it's because your mind is weak. And you've never tested, it's the same thing I talked about before, that you just believe these false limitations from your past. And if you never test them, if you never take out the garbage from your mind, they will stay there. And those weak beliefs will make you act out those beliefs in your real life. And then you actually, your body will be weak, right? Because you never push past your limitations, especially when you start feeling pain or mental difficulty and suffering. You immediately stop, which is completely fine. I cannot blame anyone for doing that because I think that we are wired that way because evolutionarily speaking, like human beings did not used to be the dominant species on the planet. Like we used to be prey. So, and being a human was filled with suffering, pain, and death all the time. So it's understandable that if our brain was developed in such an environment, it makes total sense why it is wired to stay away from pain and suffering and thrive towards comfort and safety. But here's the problem. Our environment has changed drastically, but our brain is still wired the same way. And here's a simple example. Right now, it is the best time ever to be alive as a human being. It's the safest, most comfortable period in history. And that's a fact. However, it's almost as if our brains don't allow us to believe that, right? We're always aiming for more comfort and more safety. That's why I've had this discussion with multiple people and they don't agree with me because their arguments are about all the wars and all the famine and all the suffering and all the horrible things that are happening around the world. But it's not happening to them. This is what they see from the news and this is what they are capable of being aware of because of things like the internet and free flow of information. So ironically, because we have managed to minimize pain and suffering so drastically that our tolerance for pain and suffering has also fallen to all-time low. And the result is that very tiny problems that would have been handled as tiny problems in the past are now the only problems that we have, and we handle them like they are the biggest problems in the world, which is why you see the news being filled with problems that are related to how people feel. Like someone offended someone and they didn't use the right word to address them, and then it hurt their feelings, and then, all of society needs to go and protect them, and there needs to be laws passed, which I understand, like it is a real problem, but you have to understand that the fact that we have the resources and energy to address these problems in society is such a luxurious, comfortable society to have, where you live at a time where we, the dominant species on the planet, we have time to fight for animal rights. We are now protecting animals that used to kill us and eat us for food. And don't get me wrong, I am all for animal rights, but it's a luxury problem to have. There's a good saying that goes like, strong men create a good world creates weak men create a bad world, and bad world creates strong men. And the funny thing is that I've used this saying as an example to other people, and sometimes I've gotten feedback and they go like, you really should not use the word men. You should use the word person because that's more whatever, which is so ironic because the message of what I said was that difficult times create characters of strength because they need to confront pain and suffering and the bad part of life in their environment every day, right? And the opposite is that if life is too good, if there's too much comfort and it's too amazing, then that creates characters of weakness, right? Much like the ones that get offended by words. So maybe, just maybe, the solution isn't to make our environment safe and cut out all the bad things and all the bad people and all the bad words so no one gets offended and no one gets hurt, right? This is thriving for comfort. How about we reverse it? And the solution is to increase the tolerance for pain and suffering in individuals. And you can do it by voluntarily going after it yourself. And that is another reason why I run. I'm building my character through voluntary difficulty to increase my tolerance for pain and suffering, both emotional and physical. So for the past 7 months, literally, I haven't run away from my problems, but I have dove into them and confronted them and taken out all the garbage that does not belong into my mind space anymore. And the result is that I am in the best shape of my life, mentally and physically. And I need to be, and I'm just getting started because my bucket list is so impossible that I understood that I completely need to break myself apart and rebuild myself. Like the character that I was and still am is not strong enough mentally and physically to confront all the difficulty that I need to confront in that list. It is just impossible. Like, here's some of the things on the list. I need to finish Ironman triathlon. I need to do Everest skydive, which is flying over Mount Everest on a plane, jumping out, skydiving to a base camp, and then hiking down. I need to do wingsuit flying, which is the most dangerous sport in the world. I need to do a TED talk. I need to start a business. I need to become world class in something. And I kid you not, one of the things on my list is to go to space and look back at Earth. Like, that's the most ridiculous thing on my list. And when I was writing it, I was like, I mean, would I want to do it before I die? Obviously. So it goes to the list without thinking about how realistic it is. And I named 5 or 6 things from the list. I have 100 and only 4 years to finish all of it. That literally makes my mind scream because there's nothing. I have to cut out everything that's not important in my life. And the list is still impossible, right? That's why I'm going crazy with all of this. And keep in mind, when I wrote the list, I was living in Manchester, and that was the period when I was struggling to go out for a 10-minute walk. Like, that was the mindset that I was in. And at the lowest point of my life, I aimed and set goals to reach to the highest point of my life. And it's crazy because thanks to my daily habits, running, consistency, discipline, and commitment, I'm actually doing it. Like 10% of my bucket list is done. I know it's not a lot and 9 months has already passed, but I'm actually doing it. And it's just, I've never felt better in my life about what I do when I wake up because this is for me. I'm not helping to build someone else's company. I'm not working for someone else. I'm not spending 9 hours of my day investing in something that I don't believe in. However, I'm already seeing the benefits of me just being completely honest towards myself and to the outside world and confronting the shit in my life that I need to confront. I'm seeing that it's also influencing the people around me to do the same. Because deep down, I think that we're all hungry for it. It's just that it's really fucking difficult to start. And if you don't believe me, just try it. Take a pen and paper and write your bucket list right now. And you don't need to go crazy. You don't need to put 100 things in 4 years. Just put 12 things and 1 year, which means that you need to finish one thing per month, which is completely achievable. But I guarantee that after you make the list, or not even after, probably even right now, some of you listening, your mind went like, nope, I'm not going to do it. Or no, you don't understand. I don't have the same time to go after my bucket list like that. And I have to work and I have these responsibilities and blah, 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 blah. And that's what your mind does. Because think about it. The same mind, right? If you ask yourself a question, what are the things that I want to do before I die? The answer comes from your mind. And then you write it down and you want to do it. And that same mind tells you, no, you can't start right now. No, you shouldn't do it. It's the same device pushing you and pulling you back, like you're sitting in a car with your foot on the gas and the brake at the same time. And it's just it's just ridiculous. And most people do that to themselves all the time. And what my advice is to just slowly start taking the foot off the brake and see what happens in your life. And the first step that you can do is literally just find one limiting belief that you have about yourself and take the garbage out. Or just go crazy like I did and just try the Goggins 4x4x48 run, because that's not going to take out one bag of garbage. That's going to redecorate your house. And on that happy thought, it's time to wrap up. So thank you for listening, and I hope that some of my words brought some value to your mind. And lastly, if you are interested in this topic and you want to dig a bit deeper, I highly recommend that you check out 2 videos from my YouTube channel. One is the Goggins 4x4x48 run and the story of how I began to run. And the second is the Monk Challenge, which is an absolute craziness of 40 days. And then you can just see me in action doing things according to the principles that I've been talking about for the past 45 minutes. Thanks again for listening, and see you again in the next episode.